Jeremy Roenick gets fired by NBC. We had a big trade in the NHL. And also, everyone's getting freaking injured. What's up with that? We're going to be talking about all that and more coming up next on the Sin Bin Hockey Podcast.
After a long week cashing, you're just in the mood for crashing. Go get that 2-minute minor for slashing and come on down to the Sin Bin, your number one location for hockey information. With Matt.
I saw a fucking Chinese kid review a toy that looks like a dildo, and he gets $10 million over it.
And Jake.
It's just what you do at your time. Some people do mediocre podcasts, and some people fucking shit on football fields.
So lock your wife in the closet, grab a room temperature beer, put your hand halfway down your boxer briefs, and blast your stereo for the greatest hockey show! This is the Sin Bin! Take it away, Matt.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Matt, and once again, welcome to the Sin Bin Hockey Podcast. This is the edition of the 14th of February, 2020. That's right, St. Valentine's Day. Is it me or St. Valentine's Day is a bullshit holiday? You know, I gotta say, and I know what everyone's gonna think. Matt, you're saying that because you don't have a girlfriend, yada, yada, yada. Let me tell you what I think about this, coming from a male who can grow hair on his chest, and hair on his face, and hair in other places. If you really like a girl, and you want to treat your girl right, why not treat her right every 365 days of the year? Why limit it to one day? Why limit it to February 14th? I don't get it. Valentine's Day is bullshit. What I do on Valentine's Day is the same thing I do every day. I sit down in my pants, eat Doritos, and watch The Dark Knight, where Batman's girlfriend gets exploded. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Batman. We're actually here to talk about hockey because, as the name implies, we are the Sin Bin Hockey Podcast. And we have a lot of news to talk about, so why don't I just jump right in it? But for you guys at home, just a little reminder. I did post a post today. I posted a post where I said that I was unable to do the show because my computer exploded. Thank God I was able to get my hands on another computer. I downloaded Streamlabs. I got everything set up. So my apologies if this isn't like the tightest show in terms of like everything being queued up. But I think we're going to have fun, right? If you guys at home, you want to participate, make sure to write your questions in the chat. I'll have them answered as soon as possible. We can get rid of this, right? Yeah, that's gone. All right. I'll put your questions right next to me here. So without further ado, I really wanted to talk about this subject. Again, I'm late to the party as usual, but I just need to get some stuff off my chest because you may have been able to tell by the title of today's video. Jeremy Roenick, former All-Star in the NHL. He was working for NBC. Couple of weeks ago, he was on the Spitting Chicklets podcast. Now, I don't know if you guys listen to the Spitting Chicklets podcast. I fully recommend it. It's an absolute beauty of a podcast. Well, he said some comments that were admittedly a little bit edgy. I don't think he would have got suspended over it. I definitely don't agree with the firing, but his comments was basically talking about his co-host Catherine Tappan, who, as the name implies, I would like to tap that ass because she is an absolute beaut. And he said some joke that he wanted to have a threesome with her while they're on vacation. He also said something about Patrick Sharp, where if he were to ask him, he would have to think twice before saying no. All right, it's jokes. We all know that Jeremy Roenick, he's happily married, probably. He doesn't want to have sex with Catherine Tappan. Or maybe he does want to, but he's not going to act on it. He doesn't want to have sex with Patrick Sharp. These are all jokes. But it seems like in the climate we live in today, people can't take jokes anymore. It's like they always need to get offended by something. And I think that's sort of what went on here. When he got suspended, I made a video about it, and I fully disagreed with it. And now that he's fired, I gotta say, NBC, Well, Sportsnet was on my list, my no watch list since they fired Don Cherry. I guess I gotta add NBC now. Now, Jeremy Roenick, he wasn't silent about the fact, and I gotta give him credit because one thing a lot of people in his situation, I feel like they would have done is they would have said, hey guys, I'm sorry, I fucked up. They would have caved into the pressure and basically apologized. No, sir, not my boy Jeremy Roenick. This is what he had to say. And I'm going to switch over to Twitter here. Why don't you listen to Jeremy Roenick?
I'm very disappointed and angry today. I will not be returning to NBC. And though disappointed, I'm also grateful that I've had the opportunity to share my love, my passion, my knowledge of the game with millions of people, millions of fans. And for that, I thank you. Even though I'm leaving NBC, I will not be gone for long. I'll be back better and more motivated to bring you the best entertainment and the best that I have for the game of hockey. I've seen all the support. I've read all the support. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's overwhelming. And for that, I can't wait to see you soon.
All right,
I'm very disappointed and angry today. I will not be returning to NBC.
Shut up.
Disappointed.
Shut up there, Jeremy. All right. Jabroni Jaber, he's in the chat. He says, I was dying to listen to that Spitting Chicklets episode. Yeah, it was a pretty good episode. I might say so myself. When I listened to it for the first time, because I actually listened to the comments before this whole thing went through, I didn't think anything about it. I laughed. I thought it was a joke. You know, that's his personality. Love or hate him, that's what made him successful both in the NHL and in the media business. Did you guys see it when he was in the All-Star game and he was dancing like a moron? I thought that thing was hilarious. Again, I totally get if some people, they get annoyed by it, but I thought it was hilarious. To fire Jeremy Roenick over comments like that, it shows you who's in charge. And I hate to say it, and if you guys, you're out there and you're my age, and unfortunately you're my color of skin, the world is out to get you. The SJWs are out to get you, I gotta say. Because to get mad over something like that, and going further, to fire someone, I don't know if you guys were able to hear it because of the technical difficulties, but Jeremy Roenick said, I'm sad, I am angry, and I gotta echo some of those sentiments. Holy shit. One thing I gotta say though, Jeremy Roenick is too talented of a person to not get jobs after this. All right, he is much too talented. He is absolutely going to get something, whether it be a podcast, sort of like what Don Cherry's doing. I'm surprised how much podcasts are just launching people's career. We see it more so with comedians like Joe Rogan or Tom Segura or Jim Norton even has a podcast. All of these guys have podcasts. It's a good way to advance your brand. I wouldn't be surprised if he made a podcast if no other chain is going to pick him up. Hey, I would like to see a podcast. And the bonus of seeing that is that you can say what you want. You know, you don't have any limitations. No one can fire you. You're in your fucking house wearing a t-shirt. Who's going to fire you? Jabroni says, I thought it was JR being JR. It absolutely was JR being JR. And you know what? I compared this to the Don Cherry situation. There was one difference, though. With the Don Cherry situation, we all know what happened. He said, you people come into our country and yada, 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 yada. Don Cherry, it's on the record, he refused to apologize for those words. Rogers or whoever owns Sportsnet, they wanted Don Cherry to apologize. And Don said, nope, I don't think I'm wrong. I'm not going to apologize for you guys. To which I got to say, bravo, my man. Don't cave into the pressure. Now, Jeremy Roenick, after saying his comments on Spitting Chicklets, he did apologize. I remember he put out a Twitter video where he said what I said was offensive. It was disrespectful to that bitch Catherine Tappan. I call her a bitch because she basically threw him under the bus. So after he apologized, I'm like, okay, NBC got what they wanted. They got an apology. Everything's all PC now. He's probably going to be back on the air. Now, it took longer than usual, and now he's fired. So I thought that was very weird. Despite apologizing, he still got fired. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about Jeremy Roenick getting fired because of what he said on the Spitting Chicklets podcast. I'm really dying to know because I admit sometimes I overreact, sometimes I'm wrong. So let me know if I'm wrong, or let me know if you think like me. Anyway, all right. Why don't we move on to our next story, because I don't want to talk about this for too long. There is a lot of news to get to, and unfortunately, this is unfortunate news. It involves Jay Boumeester. You guys all heard it by now. It was in a game between the St. Louis Blues and the Anaheim Ducks. And I think they were halfway through the first period or something like that when Jamie Boumeester absolutely collapsed on the bench. I mean, you saw the slow motion video. He just basically face planted, and it was cardiac in nature. It's something to do with his heart. From what I read, they did cardioversion, which is a fancy word for the clear. They did cardioversion, and they resuscitated him. So what that means, and this puts life into perspective, guys. Jamie Boumeester, is it Jamie? Jay Boumeester, sorry. Jay Boumeester died for a moment. He was dead. And then, thanks to medicine and thanks to cardioversion, they revived him. Now, obviously, the game was postponed, and both teams agreed to delay the game to a further date. And interestingly enough, I read that the game isn't going to start 0-0. It's going to be a full 60 minutes game, and it's going to start 1-1, which is what the score was. So that's it. And everyone's stats, everyone say like the hits they got or the shots they got, that's going to carry through to the next game. But going back to Jamie Boumeester, or Jay Boumeester, sorry, his dad was actually in attendance, which makes this story ever more sad. You know, he was in attendance, and it was the dad's trip. And you gotta imagine being a dad and seeing, you know, a lot of shouting on the bench, everyone's freaking out, and you just must be thinking, please let it not be my son. Let it not be my son. So our thoughts and prayers, they go out to Jay Boumeester. And actually, this is recent from today. Let's see. I had it written down here. Boumeester was alert and awake when he was transferred to the hospital. The St. Louis Blues defenseman Boumeester has undergone a successful implantable cardioverter defibrillator procedure. So what that sounds like, just based on the name, it seems like they implanted some machine in his heart to kind of get that cardiac rhythm going normal. I'm guessing that's what it is. So he's going to have that in him, kind of like Iron Man, for the rest of his life. This procedure will likely spell the end of Boumeester's professional hockey career. However, the Blues will give an update early next week. So we'll see how this plays out. If this is the end of his career, we got to admit, it's a sad way to go. You know, collapsing on the bench, it's probably not how players dream of ending their career. You know, they probably want to end scoring a hat trick or something crazy like that. So our thoughts and prayers go out to Jay Boumeester. I will say, if this does mark the end of his career, it's a successful one. You know, I was on a hockey podcast many years ago. It was called Shot from the Point. And we often poked fun at Jay Boumeester because he wasn't the most physical of guys. You know, if I have any Montreal fans, because I have a lot of listeners who are Montreal fans, kind of comparable to Jeff Petrie in the way where, yes, he's competitive, yes, he cares, but he's not the most physical of guys. You saw when Brad Marchand dropped the gloves with him, he didn't even drop his. So we kind of made fun of Jay Boumeester, but let that not take away from the fact that this is a very, very, extremely successful defenseman. He won Olympic gold. He won a Stanley Cup, which was basically the only thing that was left to win, and he won it. He was drafted in the top 3, Florida Panthers. I remember when I was younger, I used to collect the hockey cards. I had a Jay Boumeester hockey card with his signature and a piece of his jersey. I thought that was the coolest shit. So our thoughts and prayers go out to Jay Boumeester. And I don't know if you guys got to look at the top 10 bold trade predictions, a video I put up yesterday, I believe. Well, I predicted that the Blues might go after a guy like Martinez. to fill out that role with Boumeester, because even though he was old and even though maybe he's not producing his best hockey of his career, he did eat up a lot of minutes and he did go up against the best forwards on the other team. All right, you can't just throw that away. You need to replace it somehow. So I expect him to go after defenseman. If it's not going to be Martinez, it's going to be someone else. I don't think they're going to go after Matt Dumba. That's a little bit too much, but still. Speaking about defensemen facing potential career-ending injuries, did you hear about Shea Weber? Again, I also made a video about him, but this is how the story goes. So Nick Kyprios, he's a hockey reporter. He works over there at Sportsnet, or as I call it, Garbage Net, or Cuckold Net. He tweeted out that after missing one of the Montreal Canadiens game, not only is Shea Weber's season in jeopardy, maybe his career is in jeopardy. We're talking about that ankle. I don't know if it's the same one that's been causing him problems ever since he's put on the Montreal Canadiens jersey. It might be the other ankle, but from what I read, there's a lot of swelling, which isn't a good sign. I sprained my ankle a couple of weeks ago, or a couple of months ago, I should say, and I didn't heal it properly. And till this day, there's a little bit of swelling, which is not good at all. I kind of feel like maybe that's what's happening with Shea Weber, although I don't know if it's an ankle sprain or not. He blocked a shot earlier on before getting injured, so maybe that's what it was. But I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. But what I will say is that he kind of pissed off a lot of people. Nick Kyprios did when he put that out, because almost maybe a day after he put out that tweet, the Montreal Canadiens put out a tweet of their own saying Shea Weber is going to miss 4 to 6 weeks, basically putting a knife into that speculation that his career is over. They're saying he's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks. Now, in my opinion, and I just finished listening to the latest Spitting Chicklets podcast, so I'm sort of going to plagiarize what they said. If everything goes to plan, he's flying right now to Wisconsin. He's going to go see a specialist in maybe ankle injuries, whatever it may be. He's going to go see a specialist. If everything goes well, and the surgery is successful, and the rehab is successful, and there's no roadblocks along the way, then we're looking at 6 weeks. But I think the 4 to 6 weeks that the Montreal Canadiens tweeted out, that's putting it very lightly. I gotta say, that's putting it extremely lightly in my opinion, because I don't think this is just a 4 to 6 week injury. I think it's going to be a little bit longer than that. Why is the chat not popping out? Hey there, Joe. Trying to put out the chat. Let's see. This is where I missed Jake Link. He actually has the day off today. Spending the day with the missus. Let's see. Trying to put it there. It is a big blow for the Canadiens, I will say. And like I said in that video, I put on, what was it, yesterday? I think this is a sign that they should sell. I mean, what are they waiting for? Here we go. All right, here we go. The Canadiens just lost their best defenseman, right? What makes them think they can go for the playoffs? I think it's just clockwork. I feel like a robot repeating myself. They're not going to make it. Why worsen your draft position? Oh, the honor! We want to play with honor! We can't give up! Fuck honor. I'm thinking about the future. Joe says Kovalchuk just scored. Actually, that's a good thing. I'm going to play it on my phone in the meantime. Watch the Montreal Canadiens game in the meantime. I'm still a Canadiens fan after all. And I have Tristan Jarry in my pool, so hey. Tristan Jarry, what to say about him? I mean, the Penguins lately, they've been playing Matt Murray a lot. For the life of me, I don't understand why, because Tristan Jarry has been amazing. I mean, I think the only goalie that comes to mind that's been playing better than him is that guy, Elvis Merzlikins. So we'll see how that plays off. All right, I have it on my phone here. I got NHL Network. we're going to be watching the game at the same time. I'm going to go ahead with the NHL news, but I'll definitely have one eye on that. Let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm going to answer any of your questions. Anything going on in the NHL, I'm going to be answering it. And we got a Reem. He says, the team is passing way too much. They need to start shooting pucks on net. Pucks on net, pucks on net. Got to agree. I never understood this mentality. When a team is losing, I would always just shoot the puck on net. I mean, what do you have to lose doing these, trying to beat everyone? That's one criticism I have for Max Domi. For as much as I like Max Domi, and I do have his jersey, it seems like when the Canadiens are down a goal or two, he'll try to beat the whole team, try to deke them out. That's not going to work. You're not Connor McDavid here. Not many people are. You have to start putting pucks on net. Speaking of Connor McDavid, he's in the news for all of the wrong reasons. McDavid, who is, in my opinion, the best player in this league, he's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks with what's described as a quadricep injury. That's a fancy word for leg muscle. Now, I guess the positive, if there is any positive in losing the best player on the team, is that it's not the same knee that was causing him problems in the offseason. So I guess that's the only positive to losing McDavid. But holy shit, for a team like the Oilers, you know, the Montreal Canadiens are out of the playoffs. So for me, losing Shea Weber, it sucks, but it doesn't hurt. Imagine if you're an Oilers fan right now, losing Connor McGregor. Like, excuse me. I mean, that's just almost season over. Leon Draisaitl is going to have one hell of a load to lift. And that's what she said. Joe says, or Areem says, what's up? Nothing much. Just here doing my podcast. And Joe says, I think the guy we have to let go is Meat. Because because my God, he sucks. I never say that about any player because I try to remain as respectful as possible. But man, oh man, he just sucks. You know what? Similarly to Kokanyemi, we need to put our expectations in check when it comes to Medi. Because I think a lot of people, when he played with Shea Weber on the first pairing, a lot of people saw him as being maybe a top 4 defenseman. I always saw him as being a bottom pair defenseman. And if you look at him in the goggles of a bottom paired defenseman, I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's bad at all. He doesn't have the offensive flair he had in juniors, but man, oh man, he can be effective. He doesn't make any glaring mistakes on defense, which is a good thing. The thing with Mete is that he's a stay-at-home defenseman in the body of an offensive defenseman, which sucks, but if it's in a bottom 6 role, I think Mete is very valuable, actually. I kind of like the guy. He has a goofy haircut. So do I, as a matter of fact. Let's see what other news I had. Did you guys see this? My monitor is not working, actually, so you won't be able to see this. Let's see if I can get it fixed. But Zach Kassian. Zach Kassian's going to have a hearing because he decided to kick Eric Chernak in the chest with the blade of his skate. This sounds like something out of Slapshot. Am I dreaming here? Like, I had the video queued up, but technical difficulties. I'm going to try to describe what happened. Eric Chernak kind of got tangled with Kassian and another Edmonton Oilers player. They ended up going ass over tea kettles, and I guess all 3 players were on the floor. As Chernak was getting up, Zach Kassian decides to bend his leg and then extend it right into Chernak's chest. He basically kicked him. Now, if you were to look at the replay, Chernak probably didn't realize he got kicked. He didn't react to it. And I get it. There's protection and there's whatever. This is what I got to say. Kassian, I've defended your ass when it came to the Taychuk situation. Both situations. Okay? I said that he did the right thing. I said that he shouldn't have gotten suspended. Now, I gotta say, what type of boneheaded move is this? I mean, what the fuck are you thinking, Zach Kassian? You can't kick someone. It reminds me of when I first started watching hockey in like '06, '07, around that time. There was a player on the Rangers, and holy crap, his name escapes me. Um, was it Simon? Chris Simon? He was either on the Rangers or the Islanders. He got tangled with a player. He decided to take his skate and stomp it on the opposing player's ankle. He stomped on his ankle with his skate blade. This might be the worst incident since that. Holy shit. Armia just went face first in the net. I guess that's the closest he'll get to scoring. Joe says, honestly, I've been very happy how Xavier Ouellet, the X-Men, has been playing. He's been extremely reliable. Looks like his run as Laval's captain has paid off. You know what? These guys are hungry in the AHL. They want to make it to the big club. I feel like a lot of people who their position on the Canadians, it's guaranteed, they don't have that same fire. They don't have that same fire under their ass. If you look at how Xavier Ouellet's playing, he's playing like someone who wants to stay in the NHL. And who doesn't? I mean, your salary's increased. You probably can get more chicks. Who knows? He's probably married, so what am I saying? Again, Sin Bin Hockey Podcast, Fridays every 7 p.m. live Eastern Standard Times. Type in your questions into the chat if you guys have any questions. Normally, I'd be encouraging you guys to call, but given the technical difficulties, my earphones aren't working for some reason. It's my new laptop, so it's might got something to do with that. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the news. In all of my years watching hockey, I have never seen injuries like this. There's Shea Weber that I mentioned a few minutes ago. There's boumeester I mentioned a few minutes ago. McDavid that I mentioned. Now Seth Jones, I'm getting a report, he's going to miss 8 to 10 weeks. Similarly to McDavid, imagine your number one defenseman. He breaks his ankle, and after successful surgery, he's slated to miss 8 to 10 weeks. You're fighting for your life in the playoffs, and you just lose your top defenseman. Holy crap. You know, I'm rooting for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and I know technically I shouldn't because I'm a Canadiens fan, but I'm really rooting for the Blue Jackets because it's an underdog story. Canadiens fans should be able to relate to the Blue Jackets because no one wants to sign there. Artemi Panarin could have signed there. He didn't want to. He decided to go to a Rangers team that is considerably worse. Matt Duchene could have re-signed there. He didn't want to. He wants to go play his little old guitar in Nashville. It's similar to what's going on in Montreal. I mean, I love Montreal. I like visiting it. I probably wouldn't live there, but who the fuck wants to sign here? Yeah, I just saw that shot, Joe Luckinen. Pretty nice shot. I mean, there's the weather that sucks ass. There's the taxes that suck shit. I'm rooting for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Again, if the Canadiens don't make the playoffs, and I guarantee you, my left testicle, they're not going to make the playoffs, I think I'm rooting for the Blue Jackets. And then you got that wonder boy in nets, Elvis Merzlikins. I mean, what is that guy smoking? He's got some of that Latvian hashish. Holy crap. I mean, Elvis Merzlikins has been a revelation. Who do you guys think should win the Calder? Or nominated for the Calder? I gotta ask you guys. Who do you think? Because I think it's a lock that Makar is going to get nominated. And I think it's a lock that Quint Hughes is going to get nominated. My third one, if it continues like this, I gotta go Elvis. And this is coming from the biggest Nick Suzuki fan. But if I'm being completely unbiased here, I gotta give Elvis Merzlikins the nod here. Areem says, what city do you live in? Well, I'm currently broadcasting from Maine because that's where I study. But in terms of what city I live in, I'm from Sherbrooke, Quebec. So it's a little bit of a smaller city than Montreal, but it still has a little bit of that big city feel. You know, it's not a small city by any means, but hey, I like it. David Arthur says, "Hey Matt, hey buddy, hey David." He says Elvis should be nominated. Yeah, absolutely. I think the only way that he doesn't get nominated at this point is if he has like some complete drop off and he falls off the face of the earth. That's one thing I always said about goalies. They could have piss poor numbers in the AHL. They could have piss poor. They could not even be an AHL goalie. They could be in the ECHL, and once they come up to the NHL, boom, fireworks. That's why I'm not too worried about Caden Primo down there in Laval. I know he's not having the best of stretches, but goalies are fluid like that. I mean, one league they're playing like a pile of dog shit, and then in another league they're playing like Ken Dryden. There's a big gap between dog shit and Kent Dryden. All right. 7:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Gonna keep going on for a few minutes here. Let me see if I have any other stories. If you guys are just joining me, I am dying to know what you guys think about Jeremy Roenick getting fired, because I gotta say, it's been ticking me off all day. Imagine whatever jobs you guys work at, or if you guys are still in school, imagine you say something dumb like that. Imagine you apologize and you're not granted any forgiveness. That's how I view this situation. Penguins are a good team. I'm looking at them. First of all, their jersey is one of the best in the NHL. It's an absolute filthy jersey. Second of all, if any team complains about the injuries, I know a lot of Maple Leafs fans, not to rag on the Maple Leafs, they lost against Dallas last night. That was pretty funny. They say, oh, we're injured. We lost Anderson. We lost Morgan Keichli. And now they just lost Johansson, who's probably going to miss 2 to 3 weeks. If you look at the Pittsburgh Penguins, that is no excuse. They lost Crosby, probably one of the top 10 players in this league. They lost Dumoulin, a reliable defenseman. They lost Schultz, a reliable defenseman. They currently lost Guentzel, who is having a career year and one of the most underrated wingers in this league. He scores goals like a hooker, gives out blowjobs. I mean, it's no excuse. Every team is experiencing injuries. I just said it. One guy I forgot to mention is Nazem Kadri. David says, I don't very like the Blues Jackets, but I am a Blues and Edmonton Oilers and Montreal Canadiens fan. Yeah. Ironically enough, I have an Edmonton Oilers jersey. I have a Canadiens jersey, obviously, multiple. I don't have a Blue Jackets jersey, but I would like to add it to my collection. I have a Blue Jackets t-shirt. What a play by Jake Evans in tight there. I like what I'm seeing from that Jake. He's looking like a decent player. And what? We got him in the 7th round? You can get few gems in the 7th round. And when I say gems, I mean, for what you're going to get in the 7th round, like I was reading Jonathan Ericsson for the Detroit Red Wings. He's this big hulking defenseman. He played on the Red Wings for about 10 years, and he was a bottom pairing defenseman. Nothing special. He just got placed on waivers by the Red Wings. That might seem like a bad thing, but I believe, if memory serves me right, he was selected in the last round with the last pick. That's a bargain. I don't care how much his quality of play. The fact that he made it to the NHL alone, that's a bargain. And it's looking that way for Jake Evans. I might say so myself. But back to Nazem Kadri, though. That is a blow. He was playing some great hockey with the Avalanche. You know, maybe the stats don't jump off the page, but he was their second line center, and he was not only taking a lot of offensive responsibilities, he got a lot of defensive responsibilities. He's a great defensive player. I always viewed Nazem Kadri as a least talented, like a less talented Bergeron, much less talented, but he's grittier. He's grittier. I gotta be honest. I don't know when his contract is ending. Canadians, why not make an offer? I mean, he's from the area. It's a well-known fact he rooted for the Canadians when he was young. I saw pictures of him with Canadians jerseys and whatnot, and Quran in one hand. He has that bite. One thing that I cannot stand when I watch hockey is seeing a player get drilled. Whether it's dirty or not, I don't care. The fact that someone takes a run at your players and the other players on the ice, go ahead, go do what you want. Go clobber our players. That's bullshit. In this league, in order to win, you have to have players who are willing to stand up for one another. You have to. You are not going to survive in the playoffs if you don't have that. And I know it's kind of ironic bringing out Nazem Kadri because he did put his team in a lot of trouble 2 playoffs in a row when he took suspensions for cross checks to the face, both against the Bruins, ironically. But I gotta say, if I'm a player playing on a line with Nazem Kadri, playing on a team with Nazem Kadri, that is a penalty I am happy to kill. You are standing up for me, that is a penalty I am willing to kill. And they're showing it right now on the intermission report, and I actually had it in my notes. Boudreau just got fired from the Minnesota Wild. My opinion on it? Well, it's about goddamn time. It's about goddamn time. Oh, David. Oh, you brought up a topic. I was actually going to talk about it on Sunday when I talk about the Habs Nation podcast, my All Habs podcast. Chara is a fucking piece of shit. Did you guys see what happened 2 days ago when the Bruins played the Canadians? If you haven't, let me clue you guys in. So, the Canadians and Bruins, they're at the face-off dot. They're in the Bruins zone, I believe. Now, Chara, tallest player in NHL history. What is he, 6'9"? He's going up against Brendan Gallagher. He's 5'9". There's a little bit of difference, right? Anyway, he decides it's a good idea to cross-check Brendan Gallagher right in the throat. Naturally, and if you rewatch the replay, he didn't let up. He went full force, blam, right in the throat. Gallagher's head went back. Obviously, he just got cross-checked by a 6'9" giant, a brainless giant. And what does Chara do? Oh, he's telling the refs that Brendan Gallagher embellished. Excuse me, Chara. You are 6'9". You don't realize how strong it is. If you cross-check a shrimp that is 5'9", I shouldn't talk because I'm 5'9". His head is going to go back. Naturally. That's not embellishment. If you really want to address embellishment, why don't you go to Marchand that's on your own team and tell him to man the fuck up? Because he is possibly the biggest diver in NHL history. Marchand. So, Chara, if you really want to address this situation, go tell your teammate Marchand to quit it. And by the way, you only win fights because you're 6'9". You're actually a huge vagina. That's what I think about Zdeno Chara. I have no respect for this man. Absolute no respect. And you guys want to talk about the Pacioretty situation? That was dirty. I mean, they had a history going back to a couple of games before that incident. I'm, of course, talking about the incident where Chara thought it was a good idea to ram Pacioretty's head into the stanchions, committing interference, which is a penalty in the NHL. He knows what he's doing. I mean, a guy like Zdeno Chara, who all of my years watching hockey I've been hearing, he's so aware of who's where on the ice and what's what. Okay, why didn't you know there's a fucking stanchion? And why didn't you know it's a bad idea to push Pacioretty into that stanchion? I mean, that was the most disgusting play I've ever seen in all of my years watching hockey. I'm trying to put my Canadians' bias aside. But god damn it, Chara. Sometimes you look like a 6'9" brainless zebra out there. That was complete dirty. And if they didn't have that history, and when I say history, there's a game where the two teams went to overtime. Pacioretty scored the game winner on his signature wrist shot, and he gave a little shove to Chara in the back. In hindsight, not the best of idea, but ever since that moment, ever since that game, Chara had it out for Pacioretty, and he made it his sole and primary mission to destroy this man. And on a game in the Bell Center, a few weeks later, Pacioretty dumps the puck. He dumps it into the opposing zone. He doesn't have the puck for a full 2 Mississippis, if not 3 Mississippis. Chara rams his head into the stanchion, breaks a vertebrae, obviously gets a concussion. I don't think Chara got suspended. I have no respect for Zdeno Chara. I wipe my ass with Zdeno Chara. Oh boy. Did I lose you guys? Dave says that should be a game misconduct and a suspension. Yeah, I don't know if the cross-check to Gallagher's face. Absolutely. He did get fined. I believe. Let me check that to make sure I'm not bullshitting here. Zdeno Chara fined. Yeah, he got fined the maximum allowable, which is $5,000. So I guess the NHL didn't think it was embellishment. Mr. Chara, most overrated fucking player in this league. At 6'9", you don't need talent. Being tall is your talent. All of those trophies, give it to his parents. They're the ones that decided to fuck on a cold January night. And they gave birth to Zdeno Chara. Fuck Zdeno Chara. You remember that game where he played his, 1,000th game? And that so happened to be in Montreal. The Canadiens fans showed extreme class, giving him an ovation. I gotta say, I'm not the one who would have booed, because I think booing a player like that is disrespectful. But I sure as shit wouldn't be applauding. I probably would be sitting down, checking what's happening on Twitter and Facebook and whatnot. He doesn't deserve my applaud. I am sorry. To do that to a player, that vicious play, an act of vengeance, I'm sorry. You don't get my applause. Zdeno Chara, most overrated player in my history watching the NHL. Earlier on in his career, every single fight he was in, he would just slam the guy on the floor. He wouldn't play the punching game. He would play the wrestling game. It's easy to put someone on the floor when you're 6'9". Just fucking put your weight on him, and he'll go down. Anyway, I think there's 2 fights. Most recently with Yanni Trenin, where he lost that fight, and a couple of years back where he fought Chris Neal, he lost that fight, and once against Clayton Stoner, he lost that fight. 6'9", you should be winning every fight. Anyway, my Canadiens bias is out of the way. My Canadiens rant is out of the way. Let me know if you guys have any questions here. I'll be happy to address them. Speaking about the Penguins, why don't we touch up a little bit about the Jason Zucker trade? I did a video about it. I'm not going to reiterate what I said because you guys can check that out on my channel, and please do. What I will say is that, interestingly enough, the Penguins had their eyes on Jason Zucker. They actually proposed to trade Phil Kessel back when they had him, obviously, for Jason Zucker. And Phil Kessel waived his no-movement clause. Or, sorry, no, he didn't waive his no-movement clause. He did not want to go to Minnesota. So they ended up trading him for Galchenyuk. And oddly enough, now Galchenyuk's involved in the Jason Zucker trade. So it's kind of funny how things play out. But they didn't just give up Galchenyuk. I mean, obviously, that would be a pretty lopsided trade in the favor of the Pittsburgh Penguins. And no disrespect to Galchenyuk, but I think you are damaged goods at this point. Full of talent, just never able to put on paper. They ended up trading Galchenyuk, a pick, and Kalen Addison. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see Team Canada at these World Juniors. Beautiful final against Russia. One of the best hockey games I've ever seen, where Canada had a nice little, I think, 2-goal comeback. Kalen Addison played amazing. And not only in that final game, throughout the whole tournament, he's one of the players that stood up to me. He definitely stood out to me. Both he and Jamie Drysdale, who I think were playing on the same line, I think they were a very, very solid pairing. And because of that, because of the Kalen Addison who's in the equation, I think this is a little bit of an overpayment on the part of the Pittsburgh Penguins. Okay? If they get Zucker, and if he's a big part of their future playoff run, and if they end up winning the cup, then yeah, it's a win-win. Probably even Pittsburgh takes the cake on that trade. Because you win the cup, you don't care what you gave up. Because you just got the ultimate prize in hockey. I mean, who's one player on the Canadians we really like? Brendan Gallagher? If, say I were to trade Brendan Gallagher for Galchenyuk. Say we bring Galchenyuk back to Montreal. If I look in a crystal ball and I see that a couple of months from now, that move will give Montreal the Stanley Cup, then yeah, it hurts. It's a big price to pay, but I'll take the Stanley Cup. David Arthur says, I feel bad for Alex Galchenyuk. I feel bad for Galchenyuk when he was in Montreal. I feel bad for him because this is one situation where I don't want to put all of the blame on the player. Galchenyuk is a relatively hardworking player. The games where I've seen, if he hasn't been scoring and he hasn't been putting numbers up on the board, it wasn't due to a lack of effort. I hate to say this, and I will rarely say this. When Galchenyuk was in Montreal, he got screwed over by the coach. He was in Michel Therrien's doghouse for almost his entire career in Montreal. And it's one of those situations where maybe if the Canadians had another coach, maybe if they weren't forced to take the only French guy available, maybe if we were another coach, things would be different for Galchenyuk. I will say, though, too, as much as I respect Trevor Timmins, he has done one major mistake with Alex Galchenyuk, and I believe he's admitted this in past interviews. The year Alex Galchenyuk got traded, he was playing in junior with the OHL Sting, the Starnia Sting of the OHL, and I say playing, he actually missed the entire season because of a knee injury. And it was the dumbest injury, by the way. He was circling his own net, ended up skating into the net, basically. He went knee first into the post. It was a horrible knee injury. You got to be careful drafting players who missed an entire season, their draft year. That is an extremely risky move, and I think that in the case of Galchenyuk, it's a move that hasn't paid off. Because if you look at him and you look at the way he skates, Sidney Crosby on the Chicklets podcast, he said the one thing he's having trouble is keeping up with the players nowadays. They're so fast. Galchenyuk doesn't have that speed that these new age players have. If you look at guys that are around his age, like the Barzals, and a little bit younger, but the Jack Eichels, they're on a different speed, quite literally. I don't think he has that speed. If he's going to survive in the NHL, Minnesota is his last hope. Minnesota is his last hope to make some noise here, because I don't think it's going to happen anywhere else. If he fucks this up with Minnesota, you can kiss him goodbye. He's going to the KHL. You know? And if his sister feels bad about it, I'll be happy to give her some foot rubs. His sister's a doll. David Arthur says, my favorite Canadians is Shea Weber. I hope he gets better so he can play and make a push to the playoffs. I hope he gets better too. But to answer your previous question, which is, do I think the Canadians will make the playoffs? I don't know if you've been listening to the Habs podcast on Sundays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's not a big deal. No, they're not making the playoffs. Mathematically, and I'm speaking stats-wise, and I don't know how these stats are compiled, but I'm assuming they look at past years They look at teams who had this certain amount of points, and they see how many of them made the playoffs, how many of them missed the playoffs. Based on that, the Canadiens have a 1% chance of making the playoffs. And now they just lost their best player. It is not looking good. David Arthur, if you want what's good for the team, we all want what's good for the team, take the year off. Tank the fuck out of this year. Get as close as you can to Lafreniere, and if you can't get Lafreniere, take whoever's second or third or fourth or fifth best. It's a deep fucking draft. Don't worsen your draft position because of honor. Honor? And nobility? If you want honor, join the fucking military. If you want to win in this league, you need to get the superstars. Montreal's biggest problem, I don't want to make this a Montreal podcast, but they don't have any fucking superstars. They don't have any superstars. Look at them playing Boston the other night. Pasternak, Marchand, even Bergeron. The Canadiens have nothing close to that. They don't have that raw, skilled game breaker. They don't. How are you going to make it if you don't have that? Name one team who didn't have like a superstar and they didn't win the cup. There's none. Man. All I can say is that I hope Thornton recovers from his AIDS, because he needs to help the San Jose Shark. All right. On that note, I joke, obviously. Joe Thornton does not have AIDS. I would like to thank all of you for coming out today and watching episode 21 of the Sin Bin Hockey Podcast. We had a lot of fun. Of course, I did. It was a solo show. We might see a little bit more of these in the future. But I would like to thank Arim, David Arthur, Joe, and Jabroni Jaber. What's your favorite team, by the way, Jabroni? I should have asked you that earlier. Anyway, if you guys like this show, make sure to share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook. Let's get this thing growing, okay? Let's get I need your help, guys. We got to get the ball rolling. And without further ado, if you guys want to follow me on Twitter, make sure to add me at the Sinbin1996. If you have anything you want to mention, you can go to the Sinbin1996 at gmail.com. And also, if you guys like talking hockey, Discord, it's the platform to do it. You join our server, and we put out posts. We talk a lot about hockey. I put out a video of Ed Belfour getting all drunk in his hotel room, so make sure to check out the link in the description. I think the link hasn't expired yet. And without further ado, thank you for all of you guys, or you guys listening at home. My name is Matt.